Gambling companies have been on the front of Premier League shirts for over a decade. In the 2025-26 season, 11 out of 20 clubs have a gambling sponsor on their chest, generating a reported £90 to £95 million every year. But as of the end of this season, that era is officially over. The big question isn't whether this ban is right or wrong. The real question is, will this actually change anything meaningful?
Premier League clubs have agreed to ban gambling companies from sponsorship of the front of their shirts from the start of the 2025-26 season.
Back in April 2023, Premier League clubs voluntarily agreed to phase out gambling companies as front-of-shirt sponsors, starting from the end of the 2025-26 season. On the surface, it looked like a morally upright decision, the league taking a stand against harmful advertising. But when you look closer, you realize the clubs were put in a corner by the UK government. During the drafting of the gambling white paper, lawmakers were pushing hard for a total legislative ban on gambling advertising in sports. This pressure came after studies revealed alarming numbers. Around 13% of 17-year-olds, 18% of 20-year-olds, and 17% of 24-year-olds were engaging in regular gambling. And the Premier League, being one of the most watched leagues in the world, had become one of the biggest platforms for betting. Rather than risk a complete ban that would wipe out all gambling sponsorship revenue, the clubs made a strategic compromise. They agreed to remove gambling brands from the front of matchday shirts only. This means gambling companies can still appear on sleeve sponsors, training kits, advertising boards, and digital platforms. And to be honest, when watching a game, I noticed the adverts on the LED boards much faster than the shirts. So basically, it was less about doing the right thing and more about damage control, but we'll come back to that. The total value of those front-of-shirt deals exceeded £140 million. Some were old partnerships. Some were new deals rushed through before the deadline slammed shut. There were 5 clubs still carrying unlicensed overseas gambling firms on their shirts. Heading into the ban were a particular concern. These were operators not even regulated by the UK Gambling Commission, meaning local fans couldn't use the product being advertised on their club's shirt, even if they wanted to. But with the front-of-shirt door closing, betting firms pivoted fast to secure whatever high-visibility inventory remained. Even Boyle Sports, one of the brands being pushed off the front of shirts, had the self-awareness to say it publicly. Relevance and authenticity will carry more weight in the next era of football sponsorship. But here's where the real inequality of this ban becomes clear. The Big Six clubs will barely feel any impact from this decision. They already have premium, high-value sponsors like Emirates, Qualcomm, Standard Chartered, and others worth £40 to £65 million per year. Gambling money was never their main lifeline. Even Newcastle United, who once had a gambling sponsor, quickly moved away from that type of deal after the Saudi takeover, replacing it with much more prestigious partners. This makes one thing very obvious. Mid-table and lower-table clubs didn't partner with gambling companies because they believed in the brand. They did it purely because of the lucrative deals on the table. For many of them, these £8 to £12 million sponsorships were simply too good to turn down. They offered rates that fintech companies, airlines, and tech brands simply wouldn't match for a club that finishes 14th. West Ham's Vice Chair Karen Brady told the House of Lords directly, "The typical gap between a gambling and a non-gambling shirt deal is around 40%. For some clubs, gambling sponsorships made up between 28 and 38% of total commercial revenue. But now that this financial pillar is gone, what happens next?" As of April 2026, 9 Premier League clubs are heading into the summer without a confirmed front-of-shirt sponsor for the 2026-27 season. Outside the Big Six, sponsorship offers have collapsed by around 50%. Deals that were once worth £8 million to £12 million per season are now being replaced with offers in the £4 million to £5 million range. And the problem doesn't stop there. Under the Premier League's new squad cost ratio rules, clubs can only spend up to 85% of their revenue on the playing squad. Losing a major chunk of front-of-shirt income makes it extremely difficult for mid-table clubs to stay compliant. Many will be forced to sell players, slash wages, or cut their squad budget significantly. The result? What used to be a competitive mid-table battle could quickly turn into a desperate relegation scrap for several clubs. Let me show you just how bad these gambling companies affected the youth. According to the Gambling Commission, football generated a staggering £1.1 billion in gross gaming revenue in just 1 year, nearly half of all UK online betting income. Meanwhile, Public Health England estimates that gambling-related harm costs the UK over £1 billion every year through crime, broken families, lost productivity, and healthcare. Men are 7.5 times more likely than women to develop gambling problems, and the Premier League has become one of the main platforms where this demographic spends its weekends. So, morally, gambling companies were doing far more harm than good, especially to young men. But financially, it was extremely lucrative for both the clubs and the betting industry. And this is exactly why critics believe this whole ban feels like a bit of a hoax. The Premier League happily took the money for years. Now they're removing the most visible part of it while still allowing gambling ads on boards, sleeves, and broadcasts. But perhaps you could be more optimistic to say that the Premier League, although not eliminating, but restricting the impact that these companies have on clubs, and who knows, maybe there could be a time they leave completely. The front of shirt era is over. The industry has cleaned up the most visible part of its commercial relationship with gambling. Whether the game is willing to ask whether that money is worth what it costs, not in sponsorship value, but in the harm done to the audience it depends on. That question still doesn't have an answer. If you found this useful, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think the ban goes far enough, or is this just the Premier League moving the goalposts?